You know, sometimes it's just nice to root for the underdog. I mean, look at my entire channel's aesthetic. Parasect is certainly not commonly somebody's favorite Pokemon. And while it's not my number one favorite, I obviously love Parasect. And part of that is that it's not a typical favorite, like a Charizard or Greninja or Lucario or something. I think it's the most underrated Gen 1 Pokemon, and I kinda love that there are at least a handful of people that associate Parasect with me. See, Mom, I did make an impact in the world. I guess. But anyway, this video is not about Parasect. Oh no, this is about something else entirely. With almost 900 Pokemon to date, there are going to be some designs that really do not gel with people. It's simple mathematics. But that's not even going to be the entire point of this video. I will certainly be ranking the worst designs, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go through why these are designed the way they are. What is the point of them looking the way they do? Why are they named this? What was the inspiration for their designs? Maybe I'll help bring some small appreciation to what many consider to be the worst Pokemon out there, who knows? Or maybe I'll reaffirm that these are indeed just terrible designs. We'll make our judgments together, and I'll also be giving my opinions of these 15. So here's what I did. I looked up a variety of lists from sites like Game Rant, Ranker, etc. for the top worst Pokemon designs of all time, as well as asking you all for designs you hate the most. Then I compiled a list of the Pokemon that had the most appearances matched with where they tended to fall on lists, and came up with a combined top 15 list. I made sure that these lists covered all 8 generations to date too, just to make sure that each one got its fair take. Tiebreakers were decided by those who appeared higher on lists than others, and honestly, I think it had some pretty interesting results. The most surprising part to me is that the evolution line that I would personally consider to be my least favorite in the entire series, Timber, Girder, and Conkeldurr, were only mentioned by one single person in a comment. For real? Are we alone in hating these designs? They're so ugly and goofy looking and clearly rip-offs of the Machop line. But okay, it's not about what I hate. So let's go through the top 15 worst Pokemon designs and check out their origins, mostly based on what Bulbapedia tells me because, hey, maybe they are misunderstood after all. And yes, a lot of this is information readily available on Bulbapedia, so I'm just being transparent here. I'm not trying to make myself out to be a fountain of knowledge or anything, as most of these will be me learning as I write them. So just to reiterate, these are not my top 15 least favorite designs. These are the top 15 worst designed Pokemon according to the internet. Number 15, Voltorb. I don't know, you guys. I kind of like Voltorb. I even like Voltorb more than Electrode, so this was somewhat of a surprising one to me here. But, I mean, clearly the reason it made the list is that it's just a Pokeball with a mad face. Not a whole lot of creativity to be had here. But let's see what Voltorb is about. First, the facts. Voltorb is an electric type and is one of the Gen 1 OG classics, being the first Pokemon Lieutenant Surge uses in Red and Blue. Its inspiration is clearly that it looks like a Pokeball. It's just a half red, half white ball with a set of angry looking eyes. Pokedex entries state that it remains a mystery as to why this is, but there is some speculation in the Sapphire entry that it was created when a Pokeball was exposed to a powerful pulse of energy. It is known for using self-destruct, has a very high base speed, and evolves into Electrode at level 30. The name Voltorb is simply just combining the words Volt with Orb. Yeah, not a whole lot to it. And I think not a whole lot to it is ultimately the reason why it made the list. But I personally like the idea of a Pokemon posing as a Pokeball. Like, this is how it learned to adapt to its environment to survive or something. Bulbapedia also states that its design is probably based on some combination of it looking like a bomb or self-destruct button, and that Voltorb is likely considered the negative charge with its angry face, and when it becomes Electrode, the colors flip and it gets a grin resembling the positive charge. I think that's honestly pretty clever. But to me, it always felt like it should have been reversed, like it becomes the angry one after it evolves. Voltorb is one that I didn't see anybody mention in comments, but I found it being placed on multiple worst design lists. I certainly don't hate it, so I would never come close to my top 15 worst, but maybe that's just me. Number 14, Binacle. Okay, now we're getting into the weird ones. Weird ones either work with a lot of fans or fail miserably. I personally love Claydol because it's so weird, and that one really works for me. But here's one that just it's uncomfortable. The facts. Binacle is a rock-water type first seen in Pokemon X and Y. It's a two-headed creature with the orange bodies looking like arms and hands coming out of a rock. Each face is brown and has claws coming out of the top of its heads. It is based on a goose barnacle, which are filter-feeding crustaceans that live on rocks. It evolves into Barbaracle at level 39, which did not make the list. So what is it about Binacle that people don't like? I think it comes down to that it just looks creepy weird and not cool weird. It's made up of arms and hands with faces that stick out of a rock. In a weird way, I think a Pokemon like this should exist, as it's a perfect idea for coastal Pokemon, but it's just not really nice to look at, just like a goose barnacle. Pretty disgusting. The two-headed idea for a Pokemon isn't anything new either, going all the way back to Doduo, but Doduo was more pleasing to look at than this thing. Pokedex entries state that the two live together on one rock, and if they fight, one will move to a different rock. So that confirms right there that they are two separate beings. Its name actually has a few creative layers going on too. The bi part means two, combined with the barnacle part to make binacle. There is also a nautical instrument called a binacle, and the knuckle part in the name sounds like knuckle, in reference to it looking like hands. Bulbapedia also mentions that it also resembles the Hamsa, a palm-shaped amulet commonly seen with an eye in the middle. Ultimately, I'm in agreement that it's just an ugly design, but there is some creativity with it at least. Number 13, Inteleon. This is a funny one for my channel in particular. The one single Pokemon that exists that could link the whole basis behind my channel together. James Bond and Pokemon. And here it is, falling at the 13th worst design. This also gets the honor of being the only starting Pokemon on the whole list, although there were a couple others mentioned once or twice. But first, the facts. Inteleon is a pure water type that is the fully evolved form of Sobble, with Drizzile as its middle evolution, first introduced in Sword and Shield. It is known as the Secret Agent Pokemon. It has a blue body and tail with black legs and hands and yellow eyes and crest. It is very slender in appearance and has the look like it's wearing a tuxedo, and it's based on a chameleon. Pokedex entries say that it is capable of shooting water from its fingertips, and of course, its signature pose is that it very much resembles the classic look of James Bond with the cocked leg, one arm crossed on a shoulder and the other pointing a gun in the air. Now, I have some theories as to why this is so hated. I remember when the Sword and Shield hype was happening and we got our first look at the 3 starters, which is something that happens every generation. I feel like people generally liked all 3 of them though. I first took Grookey and purposely avoided seeing what any of them evolve into. Sobble was my least favorite of the 3, but when I finally caved and checked out what all of the evolutions looked like, I was shocked to find out that Sobble became a James Bond looking Pokemon. It's pretty jarring, to be honest. It really doesn't look anything like Sobble, the sobbing baby water Pokemon. I think Ska1 articulated it pretty well when they said that they don't like when a design forces an archetype onto a starter. Incineroar looks like a wrestler, Cinderace looks like a soccer player, Inteleon looks like a secret agent. A Typhlosion or a Swampert could be anything it wanted to be. And there's something to be said there. The further Pokemon stray away from looking like animals or otherworldly creatures, the less a large number of people will take to it. A secret agent Pokemon is somewhat of a cool idea, but maybe not for your signature water starter. It's too important for representing the generation. I don't hate Inteleon, but I can definitely see why it's on the list. Number 12, Aromatisse. Yeah, now we're getting into the awkward Pokemon territory. I think most people see this thing and get a little uncomfortable, but let's get to the facts. Aromatisse is a pure fairy type first seen in Pokemon X and Y. It is the fully evolved form of Spritzee. It's a semi-humanoid looking Pokemon with a purple feather-like body with a face looking like a combination of an owl, a masquerade mask, and a plague doctor mask. The majority of its body is a mass of pink fur resembling a skirt. It is the fragrance Pokemon. Pokedex entries really only touch on the fact that it emits a variety of scents to gain the edge in battle. It's speculated that its design is based on a combination of a powder puff makeup applicator, a perfume bottle, and, here's where it gets weird, can-can dancers, as well as the owl bear from Dungeons & Dragons. The name Aromatisse is a play on the word aromatize. So this was one that was mentioned more in comments rather than being on worst of lists, making this a fan least favorite, I guess? And I think the single main reason why people hate Aromatisse is the simple fact that it looks too woman-like and has its bare leg peeking out from under its skirt-like fur body. Yeah, this one's awkward. Can-can dancing was originally seen as too provocative, especially with the potential exposing of bare legs and underwear through the use of high kicks. So there is a Pokemon that delves into this category. I think if the design were maybe tweaked a little bit to where it didn't look like this owl creature with a Plague Doctor mask was seductively showing its legs and giving off scents in order to win in battle, it would have been better received. But that's literally the entire Pokemon. Yeah, this one is on the list because this is one awkward addition to the franchise. I don't see this one and feel immediately repulsed or anything, but I'm not surprised that it made the top 15 either. Number 11, Trubbish. To be honest, I thought this one would be much higher, but it was only on 2 worst of lists that I found and only got 2 mentions in comments. Alongside 1 or 2 others that I'll get to, Trubbish is one of the immediate go-tos when people are criticizing that Pokemon designs have gone too far. But let's check out the facts for this trash. Trubbish is a pure poison type first seen in black and white. It evolves into Garbodor at level 36. It literally resembles a dark green trash bag tied at the top with 2 eyes and sharp teeth, which is supposed to look like broken glass. Its arms resemble garbage spilling out from its sides. Pokédex entries state that they belch poison gas and were created from a combination of garbage bags and industrial waste. They prefer unsanitary environments. The tied knot on the top is seen to look like rabbit ears, which is a play on the term dust bunnies. The name Trubbish is a combination of trash and rubbish. So yeah, if anyone wants a perfect example of Pokemon having stupid designs in the more recent generations, Trubbish is a very common one to go to. It is a garbage bag with a face. But that's the thing, I don't think Trubbish is meant to be taken too seriously. You could view it from an environmental angle, and I think that's what they were going for. Industrial waste has polluted too much of the planet, and it's even bringing literal garbage bags to life. But I mean, even going all the way back to Gen 1, you have both Grimer and Muck, which really aren't too different. They are both piles of sludge with faces. If those can exist, I don't really see Trubbish as too far a cry. But the fact that it is made out of a man-made plastic material, I think that's the main reason why Trubbish is here and not Grimer. It's one of the infamous inanimate object Pokemon that people love to hate. This is yet another one where I honestly think it's just okay, and I can fully understand why it made the list. Some people just aren't ready for a trash bag Pokemon. Also, Garbodor just missed making the list. I personally prefer Trubbish of the 2. Number 10, Probopass. It's kinda hard to figure out what they were thinking with this one. Let's just get right to the facts. Probopass is a rock steel type first seen in Diamond and Pearl. It is one of the additional evolutions given to an already existing Pokemon, Nosepass, from Ruby and Sapphire. It is a blue rock-like Pokemon with small eyes and a gigantic red nose and red magnet hat on the top. It has 3 mini nose-looking objects on its sides and back, and its most notable attribute is its large mustache underneath its nose, which is actually iron sand attracted by the magnetic pull. It is based on the statues on Easter Island, particularly the ones wearing Pukao. The 3 mini noses are meant to represent east, west, and south, with its gigantic nose being the large red needle pointing north on a compass. The name Probopass is a combination of proboscis and compass. So I'll be honest here, I always thought Nosepass was pretty lame. A rock nose Pokemon, I'll pass. Then when I first saw Probopass, I'm like, what is even going on here? They gave a new evolution to that thing? Why? But over time, and especially after doing my research here, there's some legit creativity to be had with this thing. Realizing that the large red nose is like the large red needle on a compass, that's actually pretty cool. But I think the main part where it loses people is the mustache. Probopass is all about the magnetism, and the fact that the mustache is supposed to be iron sand, there's something that's kinda gross about that. But I guess it's better that it's iron sand and not actual facial hair. But then again, the reason this made the list I think comes down to it having too many human qualities. A rock face with a giant red nose and a mustache. Yeah, that won't be for everyone. But I'll be honest, I still like it more than Nosepass. Also, Mario. It looks like Mario. Number 9, Dedenne. Really? This cute mousy boy? This is in the top 10 worst designs? Facts time. Dedenne is an electric fairy type first seen in X and Y. It is a small orange rodent with large black ears, red cheeks, large black antenna-like whiskers, and a long black tail. The antenna whiskers allow it to communicate with others at a great distance. Its tail allows it to absorb electricity from outlets. Its design is a combination of a gerbil or hamster with a television antenna. Also, the French version of the Tooth Fairy is known as the Little Mouse, which could be attributed to Dedenne's design, given that it also has one small visible tooth, which also explains its fairy type. The name Dedenne is derived from Denki, meaning electricity, and the French word for antenna, antenne. So okay, it's Generation 6. Pokemon X and Y are coming out for the 3DS. Pikachu is the mascot of the franchise for years upon years. They are designing brand new Pokemon, and they came up with a small orange mouse with red cheeks and made it electric type. I think you see where this is going, and it explains why Dedenne made the list. So Generation 1 had Pikachu and Raichu, obviously big hits. I mean, it's Pikachu. Generation 2 fed off this popularity by making Pichu the baby version of Pikachu. Then Generation 3 introduced the two small yellow electric mice, Plusle and Mine, who look very close to Pikachu's design. Generation 4 introduced Pachirisu, another small electric type rodent looking similar to Pikachu. Then Generation 5 had yet another small electric rodent with Emolga. By the time Generation 6 came around and we got yet another small electric rodent, I think people were just tired of it. And to top it off, Dedenne basically has the same color scheme as Raichu. By the time Generation 7 came around, yeah, they did it again. Another small electric rodent of Togedemaru. Generation 8 had more Pico, and now it comes across as both tradition and parody. But for whatever reason, Dedenne is the only one to make the list, and I think it has a lot to do with the combination of it being 6 generations in, and it looking way too close to Raichu's colors. They're all pretty similar, but Dedenne seemed to cross the line more than the others. I personally think Plusle and Mine are worse offenders, but I get it. I think Dedenne's antenna whiskers are kinda cool at least, but everyone else was done with this. Number 8. Simisear. The infamous Gen 5 monkeys. I don't think I know anyone who downright loves these guys, like any of them. But for whatever reason, Simisear was the only one who specifically appeared the most. Facts time. Simisear is a pure fire type, first seen in black and white, and is the evolved form of Pansear. It looks like a red monkey with a giant fluffy tail, yellow appendages, ears, and a midsection, and has what looks like a white fluffy scarf around its neck. Pokédex entries basically say there's a fire inside of it and it loves sweet things. Those are its defining qualities. The 3 monkey lines from this generation are all based on the 3 wise monkeys motif of see, hear, and speak no evil. Simisear is the hear no evil version with its large ears. It's also supposed to somewhat represent an active volcano. Simisear's name is a combination of Simian and Sear. So these monkeys, Pansage, Pansear, Panpour, Simisage, Simisear, and Simipour almost act as secondary starters in black and white. You select your actual starter, and since these monkeys all share the same grass, water, and fire types, they help to give early elemental types to your team. The problem is, nobody really likes them. I'm serious, I have yet to find anyone who loves these. They have to have their fans, right? They really are just kinda ugly and uninspired looking. And true story, I got the black version as a birthday gift the day it came out, and I think I played it twice and gave up. And one of the reasons was catching one of these monkeys, I don't remember which, and it ended up fainting constantly, so I just lost interest in playing. The baby versions are a little less ugly looking, but not by much. But when they each evolve, oh boy. I really don't think any of them look good, but Simisear seems to be the top fan least favorite. It looks goofy and like unsure of itself or something. I'm not surprised at least one of them made the list at all, but singling out Simisear really says something. Yeah, I'm also not a fan of these. Number 7, Bruxish. Here we go. Here's another one that I don't know of anybody who likes it. Bruxish is a water psychic type first seen in Sun and Moon. It's a very colorful fish Pokemon with swirling blues, pinks, and yellows, and purple fins. It has light blue eyelashes and pink lips covering a set of sharp teeth. It unleashes psychic power from the protuberance on its head and grinds its teeth as it burrows under the sand to catch prey. It is based on the reef triggerfish, the state fish of Hawaii, and its colorful pattern is meant to resemble psychedelic art. The name Bruxish is a combination of Bruxism, meaning grinding teeth, and fish. So this one is just plain and simple. Firstly, it's pretty ugly. Secondly, it's another fish Pokemon that just looks like a fish. And thirdly, yeah, it's the giant lips and eyelashes. As I've said a few times in this video already, inserting human characteristics onto certain Pokemon really do not translate well. If you're going to put creepy lips and eyelashes onto a fish, there are going to be a large number who hate this. There really isn't too much more to say about it. Bruxish appeared on 2 worst of lists and was mentioned in comments at least 3 times. It is not a fan favorite fish, and I'm in agreement on this one. Number 6, a three-way tie of Vanillite, Vanillish, and Vanilluxe. I really wanted to try and not combine multiple Pokemon into the same spot, but this one was starting to get complicated. Vanillite appeared 5 times, Vanillish appeared 3 times, and Vanilluxe 4 times. They were all on the list at varying points, so I played the averages and placed them all in the 6th spot. It's not common for a large majority to hate all 3 in the single line, so let's check these out. Vanillite is a pure ice type first seen in black and white. It basically resembles a white ice cream cone with a face. The cone part is light blue with stubby arms. They are able to create snow crystals and cause snowstorms. The Pokédex states that their breath is minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. All 3 were designed by James Turner, who created some that I personally love, like Golett, Golurk, and Phantump. The name Vanillite is a combination of vanilla and light. At level 35, it evolves into Vanillish, also a pure ice type, which looks like a bigger Vanillite. The cone part is now pointed, and it gained more blue crystals on its body. It now resembles both an ice cream cone and an icicle. Vanillish is a combination of vanilla and Delish. And finally, at level 47, it evolves into Vanilluxe, also a pure ice type. Vanilluxe is now a 2-headed ice cream cone and is said to be 2 Vanillishes that melted and refroze together. It also has what looks like a straw coming out of one of the heads. It is said that making a Vanilluxe angry will cause a blizzard. According to James Turner, its design was inspired by both the Pillsbury Doughboy and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Vanilluxe is a combination of vanilla and deluxe. So yeah, here we go again. I think if Trubbish is not the go-to for newer Pokemon designs that people hate, then the stupid ice cream cone ones are. The fact that all 3 of these appeared among multiple comments and lists is saying something. I think the main thing this says is that maybe it didn't need to be a 3-step evolution. I could see Vanillite or Vanillish being a standalone one, but people still wouldn't like it. But now there are 3 to hate on. It's a shame too because I love the ice type, but there are a lot of disappointing ice Pokemon. Vanillite is the one who appeared the most in my data, but I think it's just because it's the first one. I think Vanillite is the simplest of the 3, but it's easily the cutest one, so there's that. Vanilluxe is just straight up weird and ugly. Like with Binacle, its 2 heads is pretty off-putting, and the fact that it's 2 Vanillishes refrozen together, yeah, no thanks. In my opinion, it gets downgraded each time it evolves, but it's plain to see that these are easy targets to hate on. They fall into the weird inanimate objects with a face category. Number 5, Mr. Mime. If you've been a Pokemon fan since the beginning, this is the first Pokemon where everybody was like, wait, what? Its existence is so bizarre, so just what is the deal with Mr. Mime? Mr. Mime was originally a pure Psychic type first introduced in Red and Blue. It was then changed to Psychic Fairy with the creation of the Fairy type. It is one of the OG humanoid Pokemon that is meant to resemble a mime. It has a round white body with red spheres at each limb, blue curled shoes, and blue zigzag hair. Its hands are white gloves with red fingertips. It was eventually given a baby version in Gen 4 of Mime Jr., as well as a Galarian form in Gen 8 with an additional evolution from that, Mr. Rhyme. Pokédex entries state that it is excellent at pantomiming and creating invisible barriers from its fingers. In the original games, it was only available through one in-game trade, so there existed only one, at least that the player could acquire. Sabrina uses one on her gym team as well. Its design is based on, of course, a mime, but also a clown or court jester. The name Mr. Mime is, well, a combination of Mr. and Mime. The name speaks for itself. However, its Japanese name is Barriered, which doesn't make Mr. Mime sound gender specific since 50% of Mr. Mimes can be female. So there really isn't a whole lot I can add to this one. Everybody knows that Mr. Mime is a complete oddball. I don't think anybody understood what was going on the first time they found out about Mr. Mime, me included. I hated it at first, and now, while I don't necessarily like Mr. Mime or its design, I weirdly kinda grew to appreciate it more after Mr. Mime being in the best scene in Detective Pikachu. But no, Mr. Mime is the epitome of strange humanoid Pokemon that certainly won't be for everyone, if not the majority. Which is why it is placed at number 5. It appeared on 3 worst of lists and was mentioned in at least 3 comments. It's a goofy Pokemon that was never meant to be taken seriously, even though statistically it's really not a bad addition to a Pokemon team. Number 4, Luvdisc. Luvdisc actually gets the honor of appearing the most among all of the worst of lists that I looked up. But surprisingly, not one person mentioned it in comments to my knowledge, so it did not rise in the rankings. Let's check out the facts. Luvdisc is a pure water type first seen in Ruby and Sapphire. It is a thin pink fish in the shape of a heart turned on its side. It has an eye on each side, light pink cheeks, and the point of the heart is its mouth. Pokédex entries state that it swims to find loving couples in the ocean, and if one approaches you, it's supposed to bring eternal love. Its design is based on a combination of the discus fish and the kissing gourami. The name Luvdisc is a combination of love and disc. So yeah, aside from Ditto, Luvdisc is arguably the single simplest designed Pokemon in the entire series. But Ditto is supposed to be simple as it becomes any Pokemon. Luvdisc is a pink heart with a face. I think it's pretty easy to see why this made the list just from its simplicity alone. But at the same time, it does look a lot like a discus fish, and I think that's a possible reason why it's considered one of the worst. At first glance, it's just a heart. But if you look at it from an inspiration standpoint, it looks just like a real world fish. It's kind of a miss on both sides. I think it's okay. It's far from a favorite of mine or a least favorite. It just sort of exists to me. But coming in at number 4 means it is widely considered to be one of the worst. Number 3, Klink. If it's not a garbage bag or ice cream cone placing in the top 3 in regards to inanimate object Pokemon, then Klink is the one to even beat those out. It received the second most mentions on worst of lists as well as being in a couple comments. So let's look at the facts first. Klink is a pure steel type first appearing in black and white. It is made up of 2 gray gears with 6 points each that turn into one another. In the middle on each is a turquoise nose, 1 open eye, 1 X eye, and an open mouth. It evolves into Klang at level 38 and Kling at level 49. Pokédex entries state that they spin around in order to generate energy and live. Its design is simply based on 2 gears. The name Klink is from the onomatopoeia of the sound of metal striking a surface. Also, the word link is in the name. So it's also not a surprise to see this one on the list. It's one of the infamous Gen 5 inanimate object Pokemon that people love to hate on. It's just gears with faces. But here's the problem I have with it. I think it's a missed opportunity to not have Klink be a single gear and Klang be 2 gears with Kling being a whole gear setup. Kling basically is this, but Klang looks exactly like Klink, just with a larger gear behind one of them. I think Klink and Klang look way too similar to each other. It's not the reason why they're here, which is due to what many consider to be their lazy inanimate object design. But weirdly enough, Klink dominated the list in mentions over Klang or Kling for whatever reason. It wasn't evenly spread out like with the Vanillite line. I don't hate Klink, but I think it should have been the middle evolution. You know, if you're going to have gear Pokemon at all. Number 2, Jynx. Oh boy, here we go. Jynx is such a controversial one that it can be a tough one to even want to talk about. There is a lot wrong with this thing, and it's one of the few Pokemon that can be downright offensive. Like legit full-on offensive to certain people. So let's look at the facts first. Its current design is a dark purple-faced humanoid-looking Pokemon with wide eyes and pink lips. It has long blonde hair parted down the middle with a red dress and yellow, outlines. It has white arms and purple hands with 5 fingers. It's an ice psychic type from the original red and blue versions and is one of the Gen 1 classics. It's also one that can only be 100% female. It is the evolved version of Smoochum, a Pokemon created from the Gen 2 era. Pokédex entries mention that it seductively wiggles its hips, seductively, moves through the use of dancing, and speaks an incomprehensible language. The name Jynx is obviously derived from the word jinx, meaning a curse or hex of bad luck. The I was simply changed to a Y to make it different. The origin of Jynx gets pretty complicated though, so I'll try and break it down what Bulbapedia says, as there are a few suggestions. Firstly, one suggestion is that it goes all the way back to Norse mythology, with Jynx being similar to Hel, the goddess of the underworld. Another suggestion is Ganguro, which was a Japanese fashion trend in the 90s of dark tan contrasting makeup with bright blonde hair. This theory is considered coincidence though, due to the timeline of the trend with Jynx's creation. Another suggestion is that it resembles a female opera singer. Yet another is a spirit in Japanese folklore known as Yuki Onna, a spirit who lacks feet, similar to Jynx. But the main reason why it's number 2 is the original design. Jynx's skin color was pitch black. Yes, the original Jynx design looked remarkably close to a woman dressed in blackface. This isn't news to anybody, but yikes, it gets more uncomfortable the more you think about it. The anime episode featuring Jinx was notoriously pulled and banned because it's plain to see that Jinx can be seen as a negative stereotypical portrayal of African Americans. It didn't help that Jinx in the anime was seen as a Santa-like figure, which actually makes it even worse, as yet another possible inspiration for the design was based on Zwarte Piet, also known as Black Pete. Basically, Dutch Santa Claus in blackface. Jinx was pretty quickly switched from her literal black face to a purple one, and while that's better, I guess, Jinx is still clearly not a favorite among Pokemon fans as it falls at number 2. Controversy aside, Jinx is yet another design that looks too human with the strange inclusion that it looks like it has breasts, so that may weird a few people out. And it's also kind of scary looking. Those constant wide eyes with the dark skin and bright pink lips. I'm honestly surprised that Jinx didn't fall at number 1, but we still have one more to go. Yes, there was one more Pokemon that received the most mentions for being the worst design, even more than the literal controversial one. But first, a few honorable mentions for those who just missed the list. Stunfisk, the weird ground electric flat fish from Black and White. How this didn't make the list is pretty surprising. Garbodor, the evolved form of Trubbish, also just barely missed. I already talked about this one in that I think Trubbish is the better looking one of the two. Muck, another classic one here. I think Muck made the list over Grimer because when Grimer evolves, it just gets a little bigger with a different face. It's not different enough. Exploud, the normal type fully evolved version of Whismur and Loudred from Ruby and Sapphire. I actually do really dislike this design, and it would have made my personal list if I were to make one. And the last couple honorable mentions that I can't believe weren't mentioned more are the Alolan versions of Dugtrio and Persian. I honestly don't know what was going on with these two designs, but that's just me inserting my personal opinions. But the number 1 worst designed Pokemon according to multiple internet sources and comments, Klefki. Taking the cake for the most appearances among these lists, Klefki takes the number 1 spot as the single worst designed Pokemon. First appearing in Pokemon X and Y, Klefki is known as that stupid keyring Pokemon. This is typically considered the worst among the inanimate object designs, and if you were to ask me what a Klefki was before doing my research, I would have sworn that it was a ghost type along the lines of a keyring being possessed by a ghost. But no, it's not that at all. Klefki is a steel fairy type. What? So let's see what was going on with this design. First, the design itself. It is a gray keyring with 4 keys attached, with the center shape having a face with 2 eyes and a mouth that resembles a keyhole. There's a red teardrop looking thing below its face. The keys literally look like keys without any other differences. One even looks like a car key. And apparently the very top of it is supposed to be like a horn. Klefki was created by graphic designer Mana Ib. According to its design and Pokédex entries, it is based on a keychain, obviously, and has a habit of stealing keys from people to collect on its keyring. It absorbs metal ions by inserting its horn into chinks in metal. People will also give it keys to their own personal safes and vaults, as it never lets go of a key. It is a steel type, as its body is a metal keyring, and it absorbs metal ions for food, and apparently it is a fairy type based on the old concept of fairies being the reason as to why small objects go missing in people's homes. The clef part of its name is the French word for key, and the key part is, well, key. It's also bordering on becoming the word kleptomaniac, the term for being addicted to stealing things. So after learning all of this, do I feel that it's deserving of the number 1 spot? I mean, I think it's usually pretty neat when designs are based on specific folklore or superstitions or something, so this one has that going for it. Fairies stealing keys. Kinda reminds me of the Underpants Gnomes from South Park. But with that said, I am absolutely not surprised this did take the number 1 spot. Pokemon by name means pocket monsters, mythical creatures that are typically based on real animals or concepts from our world. So trying to get people on board with a literal key ring that steals keys is a stretch. Is it my number 1 least favorite design? Definitely not, but it's just kind of there for me. I think I would have liked it more if it were a ghost type, because I like the idea of certain inanimate objects being taken over by ghosts, but that idea may also be a little overdone. We have a ghost teapot, a ghost candle, a ghost sandcastle. I can see people not liking these as well. But I love Litwick, Lampin, and Chandelure for that reason. But ultimately that point is moot, because this is a steel fairy type. I feel like if somehow Klefki is anybody's favorite Pokemon, it would probably be for ironic reasons. But I don't know, let me know what you think. So there we have it. Some interesting results here. The majority of the ones on this list came from Gens 5 and 6, more than half actually. We had 3 from Gen 1, and only 1 each from Gens 3, 4, 7, and 8. Not a single one from Gen 2. The only Gen 2 ones I saw get any references at all were Unknown, Stantler, and Dunsparce. But yeah, let me know what you think. I know I already asked this on my channel, but are any of these on the list anybody's favorite Pokemon? Like, actually your favorite? I doubt it, but you never know. What I do know is that if a design is going to go along the lines of being humanoid or based on inanimate objects, there will probably be some pitchforks raised. So if you like this video, do please subscribe to check out more Pokemon content like my ongoing series retrospective or TCG challenges on the Game Boy. I'm not strictly a Pokemon channel, but there is a lot of stuff I want to cover. I always mention my Patreon, as those who want to support the channel are kind and bring warmth to my heart. But if not, subscribing is seriously more than enough. Thanks for joining me, and Paraspectre will return in the next one.